Hi everyone, my name is Martina Vigo. I'm a barista, coffee roaster, and co-founder of Flat and White coffee shops in Argentina. I'm here today to do one of my favorite things in the world. Talk about coffee. In this video, we're going to embark a trip to Espresso Land. We'll give you an introduction, some tips and tricks to make it in your own home, this time using a Flair espresso maker. Not only are these manual lever machines an affordable option for home espresso, the use of a manual lever means we can show you exactly how everything works from pressure to extraction. I think we can't begin making espresso without telling you what it is. An espresso is both a drink and a brewing method. It can be a bit confusing, but we're hoping to clear all of your questions in here today. So you probably have seen these espresso machines when you go get a drink at your local coffee shop. These machines are built to brew coffee in this particular way. A small amount of high-temperature water is forced with a lot of pressure through a finely ground coffee pack just in a matter of seconds, from 25 to 35 to be precise. This creates a coffee that is short in volume, highly concentrated, with a lot of texture and body, amazing aromas, and lots of delicious flavors. So the brewing method is totally different from the regular coffee you might be used to, like drip coffee, for example. Their brews are totally different in volume and density, but they might use the same amount of coffee beans to begin with. This is the espresso brewing method, but as I said, it is also a drink. If you go to a coffee shop and order an espresso, you will get a demi-tasse with this dense, concentrated coffee. It is also the base for the majority of the drinks in the menu, like cappuccinos, lattes, flat white, americano, and maybe even iced coffees too. Okay, let's make espresso, right? First up, we need coffee beans. And one thing I want to get out of the way is that there isn't such a thing as espresso beans. As I said, espresso is a brewing method and a drink, but we can use any type of coffee available to make espresso. Then why some coffee bags display the word espresso on it? So what they are trying to tell you with this is that this coffee is a little more easy to extract, easier to get a good result with. They can achieve this by maybe roasting the beans a little bit darker, which makes it more soluble, or maybe it is a blend with different types of coffee in there. It really depends on the coffee company or roaster, so maybe take it with a pinch of salt and just try out some different coffees and pick the one you like. Well, now that we have chosen a coffee, we need to grind it for espresso, and this is easily the most overlooked topic by beginners. They want a nice espresso machine and tend to put the grinder on the lower scale. The grind quality and consistency is the #1 priority to make a good espresso. Without a good grinder, we'll never get the results we look for. So it is very important that you invest in a high-quality espresso grinder. If you decide to go through the hand grinder path, Flair has this Royal grinder, which is great for espresso and makes it the perfect combination to your Flair espresso maker. For espresso, we look for a very fine grind so water can extract all the coffee flavors in that very short period of time like we talked about. Even the slightest change in that grind is going to have a huge impact on the brew. That's why we need a grinder that has a lot of settings for espresso or a stepless grinder. This way we can make micro adjustments to dial in our coffee. Okay, now that we've selected a grinder, we need an espresso machine, right? So why the Flair? There's a lot of reasons why the Flair is one of the best options for anyone who wants to start making espresso at home. As this is a manual espresso machine, we have access to all the variables of the extraction, and this gives you the possibility to create an amazing espresso just the way you like it. Not to mention how much we can learn with this, changing one variable at a time and see what that does to the final cup. You can play around with the temperature of the water, the dosage, and the grind size of the coffee, tamping, the pressure, the time, and the yield of the extraction. This is a lot, and it is difficult to find an electric espresso machine that lets you do all of this without paying thousands of dollars. So it is really affordable. And as a plus, you don't need electricity to use it as it is portable. You can fold it into its carrying case and take it anywhere to make delicious espressos on the go. So let's reassemble our Flair and go through its parts to get a better understanding of how it works, and then we'll pull a shot, shall we? By the way, this is a Pro 2 model that we'll be using today. First, let's get in place our base, post, and lever that comes with the portafilter base. This too can be affixed with a screw if you're not traveling for a while and want a little bit more stability. And this is where the magic happens. This is the brew head that comes with a few different parts. We've got the portafilter where we're going to put our coffee in, and the dispersion screen that goes on top of it. Then the brew cylinder and the plunger for the water. And pushing this plunger will be the stem with the pressure gauge. We've also got a few accessories like a drip tray, a tamper, a dosing cup, a funnel, a silicone preheat cap, and a removable spout. As every manual espresso machine, we need to preheat the parts to make sure the temperature of the water stays high enough for the brew. You can do this using the included preheat cup for the cylinder. Just fill it with boiling water for at least 3 or 4 times. Or you can use some sort of funnel and just place the cylinder and portafilter on top of the kettle you're using to heat the water. This option is faster and more efficient. While that is preheating, we can prepare our coffee, and we cannot recommend more getting a set of scales. It will make everything so much easier. As I said before, when we talk about espresso, every small change will have a huge difference in the cup. So we need to know what to change for next time. The scales will help you with that. For this particular coffee, we find that a dose of 17 grams works great, so that's the amount we're going to grind. The grind setting you'll need will be different for each coffee, and even for the same one, you'll have to tweak it daily to dial in. For the Royal, Flair recommends to play around the first rotation of the crown. Once the portafilter is nice and warm, we'll add the grounds to the basket using the dosing funnel. We strongly recommend getting or making one of these. It's a WDT or wise distribution technique tool that makes sure that all the grounds are uniformly dispersed throughout the basket, with no air bubbles or areas where the coffee can get more compacted. This ensures an even extraction that will favor notably the final result. Now we're ready to tamp these fluffy grounds into a beautiful cake. The key here is to tamp as level as possible. Then put the dispersion screen on top and set the portafilter into its base. Once the water is ready and the cylinder is hot to the touch, we're going to place it on top of the portafilter and fill it up with the water just above the plunger to avoid any air gap inside. We'll now place the scales and espresso cup below the portafilter. Tear to 0 the scales so we can measure our espresso yield and start the timer. Now we can begin lowering the lever. And here is where you can get creative. As we pull down the lever, you'll see the pressure gauge go up. You can play around with this to do pre-infusions, ramps. Basically, you have what's called flow control. This is a feature found in machines worth at least 10 times more than the Flair. It is what makes it so special to me. It can be a little complicated though, so if you're a beginner, we recommend going with a ramp style of pressure like we're going to demonstrate today. We'll begin slowly pulling down until we see the pressure gauge going up to 2 bars. We'll maintain this position until we see a few drops coming out the portafilter. Then we will slowly and steadily pull down the lever again until the gauge reaches the espresso range. And then, when we are close to our espresso yield goal, start to let go the lever very slowly. Doing this, the extraction should take about 40 to 50 seconds. It is a little longer compared to a regular electric espresso machine, but here we're doing the pre-infusion manually. For this particular coffee and the 17 grams of dry grounds we used, I like to extract 40 grams of espresso yield. This is a ratio of 1:2.3. You can change this based on the coffee and roast type you're using. I'm using a specialty medium roast, medium to light maybe, it is a little subjective. But I think starting maybe with 18 grams of dry coffee and 36 grams of espresso yield is a good place to start experimenting. Taste it and tweak it until you find the perfect recipe. Now we just enjoy this espresso, a concentrated drink full of aromas and delicious flavors. We can see on top of the espresso this golden brown foam named crema. People can get really fixated on this crema because it looks beautiful and really appetizing to the eye. But what exactly is this crema? Without getting too much into this, the process of roasting coffee creates lots of CO2 that gets trapped into the coffee beans. So when your coffee is fresh, it still has lots of CO2 inside. As we are grinding these beans and then putting them into the machine to make espresso, the high pressure water gets super saturated with the CO2 and then we'll begin to release it, taking some solids with it, forming lots of very tiny bubbles to make this smooth foam that we call crema. The pressure is the key here. This is why we don't get crema in other brewing methods like pour-over. The fresher the beans and the higher the roast level will yield more crema. And the darker the roast and the more concentrated the drink is, the crema will be darker. If you're getting enough pressure to pull the shot, there's going to be crema on the espresso. But we don't have to take the amount or the color of the crema as an indicator of the quality of the shot. For example, a light roasted coffee will be paler in color and have less amount of crema, but if dialing right, will be still more than amazing. There's a great video here in Flair's channel made by Lance Hedrick on how to dial in light roasted coffees, so if that interests you, you should go and check it out. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and find it useful. If you got any questions at all, please leave them down in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching and thank you very much, Flair, for having me here. It's been a real pleasure. If you want to see a little bit more about us, you can visit our YouTube channel named Flat and White. For now, I'm gonna go pull another shot because this was delicious. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.